Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. Part 1. Unveiling the Backyard Range. Growing tired of the limited shooting options available, I decided to convert my backyard into a personal shooting range. It was a modest setup, suitable for pistols, and I always prioritize safety and accuracy. Little did I know that my innocent pursuit would lead to a clash with a meddlesome woman I referred to as the Homeowner Association lady, even though I wasn't part of the Homeowners Association. One fateful day, as I was perfecting my aim, the Homeowner Association lady barged into my backyard, exclaiming her disapproval. Despite being a 35-year-old with a clean-shaven face, she mistook me for a young teenager. Irritated by her intrusion, I calmly explained that I was shooting on my range and that the gun was pointing safely towards the ground. Unfazed, the Homeowner Association lady continued her tirade, accusing me of being too young to handle a firearm and demanding to see my parents. Annoyed but determined, I emphasized that I was a responsible adult and firmly requested her to leave my property. Refusing to budge, she intensified her complaints, prompting me to threaten calling the police. Part 2. A dramatic turn of events. Retreating into my house, I hoped the Homeowner Association lady would eventually give up. However, my hopes were dashed when I heard aggressive knocking at my door, and to my surprise, 2 police officers arrived, followed by 3 more squad cars. They had received a call about a minor recklessly firing a gun in the backyard. Standing my ground, I welcomed the officers inside and led them to my gun safe in the garage. As one officer verified my identification, I showcased the locked gun safe, the firearm in question, and the shooting range itself, complete with accurately placed shots on the target. Officer 2, intrigued by my setup, expressed the desire to have fellow officers test it out with my permission. Relieved to be in the clear, I asked if I was in any trouble. Cop 1 assured me that everything was in order, my licenses were up to date, and I had followed all standards. The officers left, seemingly satisfied with the situation. Little did I know that my troubles were far from over. Part 3. A Battle for Justice. The Homeowner Association lady persisted in her crusade against me, repeatedly calling the police and attempting to photograph me in my own backyard. To counter her actions, I sought advice from Cop 1 during one of his subsequent visits. He informed me that I could obtain a restraining order if she continued to invade my privacy and harass me. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I pursued legal action against the Homeowner Association lady. With the support of the police officers and substantial evidence, including her photographs, phone records, and witness accounts, I successfully obtained a restraining order. Finally, she was legally obligated to stay away from me. However, I couldn't resist the urge to further teach her a lesson. Determined to turn the entire neighborhood against her, I decided to throw an unforgettable party. I spared no expense, creating an incredible gathering for everyone in the neighborhood, except the Homeowner Association lady. I invited friends, neighbors, and even some officers from the precinct, who were eager to explore my shooting range. Part 4. The Ultimate Neighborhood Showdown. As the night of the party arrived, I witnessed a remarkable turnout. The absence of the Homeowner Association lady highlighted her isolation and the widespread support for my shooting range. The atmosphere was electric, with booming music and permitted individuals venturing to the backyard to partake in some shooting. Even my newfound cop friends joined in on the fun, relishing the opportunity to test their skills. To add insult to injury, whenever curious neighbors inquired about the Homeowner Association lady's absence, I candidly explained the situation, exposing her unwarranted harassment and futile attempts to disrupt my life. The neighborhood had turned against her, and I relished every moment of it. In the aftermath of the party, I continued shooting in my backyard, now with the backing of numerous police officers who had become my friends. While I couldn't be certain if the Homeowner Association lady made further attempts to involve the authorities, I knew that my reputation and credibility had been firmly established. I transformed from a neighborhood loner into a respected figure, known for fostering camaraderie and providing a safe space for gun enthusiasts. As my backyard range flourished, I toyed with the idea of hosting another party, a gathering where neighbors could showcase their shooting skills. The prospect of inviting the Homeowner Association lady and proving her wrong enticed me. I chuckled at the thought of her witnessing the joy and unity she could never disrupt. Should any exciting events unfold at the next neighborhood gathering, rest assured, I will regale you all with the details. The Homeowner Association. Lady's futile efforts to silence me had inadvertently propelled me to new heights of community respect and friendship, and with every gunshot that echoed through the neighborhood, I relished the knowledge that her power to dictate my actions had crumbled, leaving her frustrated and powerless. The revenge of the backyard range had become a testament to standing up for what I believed in, and emerging triumphant against adversity. And as I aimed down the sights of my pistol, I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction, knowing that my shooting range had become a symbol of resilience, unity, and defiance. The next one is a pro-revenge story. My parents live in a nice, quiet neighborhood. For the most part, everyone gets along well, and the neighborhood exists in its own little bubble. The only time you see people from outside the neighborhood bubble is on Halloween. Our backyard neighbor, a single middle-aged woman whom we'll call Sally, was kind of adopted by our family and came to all holiday parties and family get-togethers. We all love her, and that made our revenge all the more satisfying. Sally had a next-door neighbor who owned a lot between Sally's house and her own. When the neighbor expressed an interest in selling the lot, Sally offered to purchase it, and a deal was made. Unfortunately, Sally's neighbor died prior to the land deal being finalized, and the lot went into her assets to be distributed to her only daughter, whom we will call Resting Idiot Face or RBF. RBF disliked Sally and refused to sell the empty lot to her because she believed Sally had been attempting to screw her mother over. RBF claimed she was going to sell it to an interested developer who would build a house there. When my parents heard this, they were upset. Our house was on a hill, and the empty lot also ran up to our backyard. My parents did not want to look down into another house backyard. Likewise, Sally did not want a house next to her, so she tried one last time to purchase the lot. She offered more than she had originally planned on paying, but RBF said she would never sell the lot to her. My parents and Sally hatched a plan, though. My parents, whom RBF did not know, had an attorney draft a purchase offer for the empty lot. They offered several thousand less than Sally's original offer had been. RBF hemmed and hawed, but came back with a counteroffer equivalent to Sally's original offer. My parents offered her $5,000 less, and she accepted. After the sale was finalized, my parents sold the lot to Sally for the same price they purchased it. Sally ended up receiving the lot for $5,000 less than she had originally agreed to pay, and over $10,000 less than what she offered to RBF. RBF did find out what happened and tried to negate the contract with my parents on account of fraud, but that's obviously not a legitimate claim. RBF never spoke to Sally or to my parents after she learned what happened. Another interesting tidbit. After purchasing the lot, my parents notified the town of their intent to not develop the property, so nobody can ever build a single-family dwelling on it. They killed 2 birds with 1 stone, no downhill neighbor, and the property stays in the family. The next one is a petty revenge story. I'll make it short. My girlfriend gets pregnant. I do the right thing and stick by her. We have the kid. She starts going out all the time, and we occasionally get calls at the house from guys looking for her. I knew she was cheating, but didn't really care. I was just there to make sure the kid was well taken care of. I get a new job out of state, hoping that being away from her bar friends will bring us closer. Nope. She finds a new boyfriend quickly. She tries to hide it, but she sucks at lying and hiding things. Again, I don't care. By now, my kid and I are very bonded, and even at 18 months, it's obvious he doesn't care much for her either. I come home from a trip. I can't find my kid. I walk into my bedroom, and there she and her boyfriend are having a nice little romp. Now, this was in the days before cell phones, and we lived on the 3rd floor, so there was no escaping the bedroom without coming through the living room. I just say, when you two are done, I'll be in the living room, and walk out. 3 hours and a lot of whispering later, they emerge. I walk the guy to the parking lot and explain to him that I'm not mad at him, but he should be decent and not engage in sexual activities in my house anymore and stay out of my beer. I go back upstairs, tell her to go get my son. The next day, I get a new apartment and move out in 3 hours while she's at her boyfriend's house, and I take the kid. The day after, I file for divorce and get full custody, which I win after 2 years of legal wrangling. Granted, child support is minimal, but it pays for beer for the next 18 years. I support my kid. I never bring it up to her because I'm a decent guy, but it's fun to rub it in her face when she gets out of line that I spend it on frivolous stuff for myself, and buy him all of his clothes, toys, food, etc., out of my own pocket. It always makes her fume for a few days. In hindsight, I should have put it into a savings account for him, but we all make mistakes in life. Now, I had purchased her a Toyota Accord before we moved, which we shared, But in the divorce, she wanted the car, which I gladly gave her. Then I moved back to my state, moved in with my parents, and started life over. A few months go by, and I start getting calls at work from the credit company demanding overdue payment. I explain numerous times that the vehicle is legally hers now, and I will not be paying. Most of these guys are a-holes, but one day a very low-key guy calls and says, "Look, we're just trying to work something out because we can't locate her." "Oh well, why didn't you say so? Here's where she's living. The plate number is XXXX, and I have it on good authority she is home right now. She doesn't have a job." About 3 hours later, my phone rings, and it's her. She is pissed, asking me if I told them where the car was because they just repossessed and towed it. "Yep," I say with a smug grin. "Something you need to learn is if you don't pay your bills, you don't get to keep your stuff. By the way, my lawyer is paid off. How is yours doing?" Click. That was a great day. The next one is an entitled people story. This is an old story, but it just popped into my head while I was hunting through videos on YouTube, so I figured I'd post it. This is an old story, and I can't remember exactly how all of the conversations went, so they're pretty much my recollection. Years ago, shortly after I had left the service, my girlfriend, now wife, and I moved in together, halfway across the US from both of our respective families, long stories for another time, and to a place where we both had friends as a result of our military travels. One of my wife's friends, we'll call her Anna, had gotten married in the intervening years since they had last been together, and was in the process of a divorce since her husband had knocked up the checkout girl at the local orchard. She had left the home, a single-wide trailer, important later, they owned, left the car they owned, which she had solely paid for and was still in her name, moved back in with her parents, and got a second job. She already worked at a large big-box retail establishment. Of course, my wife and I commiserated with her on multiple occasions about how poorly she had been treated. Anna made a remark at one point about missing her bills that month. My wife asked, "What bills? You live with your parents, you have 2 jobs, no credit cards, and you never do anything expensive. What could you possibly owe anyone money for?" It turns out that she still had a checking account linked to her ex-husband's account, and when he decided not to pay the mortgage or the car payment, they simply took it out of her account, marked the loan current, and went on with their lives. Shortly after the divorce, he would make most payments, but for the last year or so, he hasn't made a single one. So the ex-hubby has perfect credit because he never misses a payment, and Anna's credit is in the toilet because she is constantly late on her own bills. Anna may have 2 jobs and not a lot of bills, cell phone, car payment, insurance, but when she's making someone else's mortgage and car payments as well, she's pretty much broke. That's why she never does anything expensive, and has to have me change her oil in my gravel driveway because she can't afford $20 for Jiffy Lube. I asked her why she didn't close the accounts and go somewhere else. Anna's answer was, "But if they miss their payments, the bank will take their house and their car and they have a baby. I can't do that to them." I did the Forrest Whitaker eye. Then I said, "They're taking advantage of you pretty badly. They've established that you'll pay all their bills for them, and they can do whoever the hell they want because you'll never force the sale of the house or the car. If I had an option to pay my bills or pass it off to someone I don't like, I'd let them do it every time. He's paying an electric bill and getting a free house, car, and everything else. And I guarantee you that he's handing these bills to the social worker and claiming he can't afford to live, so they'll give him WIC, food stamps, and everything else." You're funding the lifestyle of an a-hole who cheated on you, and a woman who knew he was married because every time she came over, she made him take your wedding pictures down so she didn't have to look at you while she did naughty things with your husband. You're paying bills for a guy who is so dumb that he thought he couldn't get a woman pregnant he wasn't married to, and a woman who thought if she had an orgasm before she came over to sleep with your husband while you were at work, her egg would be gone and she couldn't get pregnant. The dumbass was using a sex toy as birth control. You see, I may not give a rip about most of my family, but you do not mess with my friends. She gives it some thought, and a couple of days later, asks for some help out of this. I took her to my bank to get an account the next day. She moves her direct deposit, withdraws her money, and closes her old account. The next month, ex-hubby's bills don't get paid. We're watching a movie when he calls. She spends an hour in a screaming match with him telling him to pay his own bills. She has been charitable enough, and he and his new wife can pay for their own crap. Then the penny drops. Remember earlier when I said the house was a trailer? Anna has been paying the mortgage on the trailer, but not the rent for the lot it's on. They never had her checking account. This entitled prick has been assuming she's been paying that too. She assumed he had. He hasn't even figured out what's coming yet. He's calling because he's pissed off she hasn't paid the lot rent in forever, and he's being told to pay up, move his trailer, or they'll do it and hold the trailer in arrears until the bill for moving it is paid. He's calling to ask her for another $6,000, or they'll lose the home they both loved so much. Now, up until this moment, Anna had been this sweet, wonderful gumdrop of a person, the type of person that it should be legal to slap if they're encountered before 9 a.m., the relentlessly sunny person that you send into the room to cheer up Tinkerbell. In the better part of a year, I haven't heard this woman say a bad thing about anybody. Until tonight. Until this guy called to complain that she hadn't been paying enough of his bills. And she loses her mind. She lights into this guy that he'd better figure it out because he's not getting another penny from her ever again. And while he's figuring out who to beg, borrow, or steal that money from, he may want to get a little extra since he's about to get the overdue notices for the house and the car too. He starts screaming so loud I can clearly hear what he's calling her from across the room before she calmly hits the end button, flips the phone over, pops the battery out, sets them both down on my table, hits play on the VCR, morphs back into her normally sunny self, and offers to make popcorn. Monday morning she went to the lawyer, filed a no-contact order, filed for bankruptcy. Her credit was already a mess. There were bills her name was on, and she didn't want that splatter all over her. And called the dealer that owned her car note, told them she couldn't make the payments anymore, and offered them a voluntary repossession. She had them bring out their tow truck and met the driver with the keys and the paperwork. She signed the forms, asked the driver oh so sweetly to drop her off at her parents' house on the way back to the dealer, and waved at her ex from the passenger seat of the tow truck as he came running out of the trailer wearing only a towel. Over the course of the next month or two, he lost his job because he couldn't get to work anymore. His wife had to go back to weighing pears at the orchard. Turns out she'd left her job when Anna was paying for everything. And sell his record collection, which was what he'd been spending his money on while someone else was paying for everything. On the bright side, I picked up original vinyl copies of Abbey Road and Yellow Submarine for a total of $5, because his idiot wife running their yard sale didn't understand why the old crappy records were worth anything anyway. And that's how Tinkerbell burned some entitled a-hole's life to the ground. The next one is an entitled parent's story. So I'm already a single mother with a loving 2-year-old, and I have been asked if I would be willing to carry a child for my mother and her boyfriend. I told her yes at the time because I wasn't listening to what she was saying and trying to end conversation. Later on, I began thinking how she could expect that of me, her daughter, to carry a child and possibly put the poor child through that household that I got abused in. I walked back to her and told her no, I will not be carrying the man's child. She got angry and told me, "You're going to upset your dad." I told her, "He's not my dad as a married man and you're his mistress, and it's disgusting you'd ever ask me to carry your child." All of what I said about him was true. He is married to a geeky teacher from what I've heard, and I plan on telling her when I leave. I had worried what would go down if I did so, but after seeing her boyfriend has manipulated her into thinking yet another thing that was socially unacceptable was okay. This man has bought me adult toys at 14 years old and made me walk around him naked. She encouraged this behavior and would even buy me clothes that'd be the wear from an average slut. Dresses that are too short, the kind seen in animes and show cleavage. Shorts that were hardly 3 inches long, sometimes less. This man was bad news, and nobody in the family except my entitled political grandmother knew what had been going on. Even she found it wrong, and once I told the family, they realized how much danger I'm in. This man has done some unholy crap like answering the door standing full attention naked while I was holding my daughter. I was stunned into silence, trying to process what was going on as he grabbed my daughter and held her before I took her back, realizing what was going on and left. I wanted to puke. I wanted to scream and cry. I know if I go to my mom and tell her this isn't okay, she will tell me if I complain I will be kicked out of the house, leaving me homeless. I don't know how she thinks this is okay. Because of him, I have body image issues. Once as a teenager, I jokingly brought up the idea of me having sex with this man, and he did not once deny the thought. That was the day I realized he was a horrible man. I told my mother she deserves better than a man who is okay with the idea of having sex with his girlfriend's daughter. She told me it didn't matter. I told her she deserves a man who doesn't have a wife already, and that if he really loved her, he'd dump his wife and marry her. She said, "He will marry me one day." I'm never going to call this man Dad, despite my mother wanting me to. I know this went on a tangent, but I hate this man and I'm furious. So that being said, am I wrong for not wanting to carry a baby 9 months for an abusive parent and her boyfriend? Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.